Hi there. We're a couple minutes late, but we had some technical difficulties, so we're switching directly to Facebook Live, and we'll get it out to the other channels either during this or shortly after. So we'll give it a minute as people jump on here, since we had to switch up the game show. I don't like being late, but it is what it is. I'm Tricia Broderick, in case people are coming on. We'll give it a minute. As people are there, and confirmation that we're up. Well, I see John, so I think we are at least live, so that works. And we'll get going in just a second. And I have the all clear. So hi there, my name is Tricia Broderick. I'm with Agile for All, and we are doing another round of just a little bit of content, a little bit of tips and information for various people out there in the Agile community. This week, we decided to talk a little bit about the Advanced CSM. Oh, wait, I have to stop. Sorry. Today, it's my mother's birthday, so I have to give a shout out to my mom, say happy birthday. I won't say how old she is, because then that will imply how old I am as well, and nobody needs to know that information for her or for me. But today is very happy birthday to my mom, even though she really doesn't get on Facebook except to see the pictures of my kids, so and my nieces and nephews. So we'll see. But happy birthday, Mom, and totally selfish post out there right now. So let's get back to the topic at hand of what really everybody cares about, and why you're joining in today. The Advanced Certified ScrumMaster. Honestly, I don't personally love the title. I know that Scrum Alliance went back and forth, and a lot of hard work by a lot of people in different areas. But I tend to be less role focused as a trainer and a coach, and more skill focused. And so sticking with a role specific kind of topic versus skill is somewhat challenging for me sometimes, with how I articulate it or how I kind of share what we're doing here. So let's do a couple just base set for a second. The Advanced CSM is a course by Scrum Alliance dedicated to pretty much advancing and leveling up the Scrum Master at organizations, different Scrum Masters in different organizations. When we looked at the learning objectives, we hadn't decided as Agile for All if we were going to build an Advanced CSM course specifically as an Advanced CSM course. What we had been talking about, a number of us, was building a facilitation course, and kind of building off of the essence of skills over roles for me. And we had a coaching specific course focused on for leaders, how to coach as a leader. And I really realized how much we needed a facilitation course as well. And wouldn't you know that the lovely learning objectives coming out for that Advanced CSM really centered around a lot of facilitation. So we built basically the course we would want to build centered on facilitation, and then weaved in, honestly, the learning objectives that aligned with the Advanced CSM. So we built for value first, not built to a course learning objectives, if that makes sense to anybody who's built courses and attended courses. We wanted to make sure that what we were saying wasn't just, hey, we built something to make a cert, versus, hey, we built something that we feel is of value. The lovely part is it did align probably 90% with the learning objectives. We really only had to add or adjust a few things in order to make it qualify as an Advanced CSM. So our focus when we go into the Advanced CSM at Agile for All, I guess I should also mention, we only have one Advanced CSM at Agile for All. Different trainers, which come with different stories and different experiences when we're teaching the content, but we made a conscious choice at Agile for All to only create one course where we could work together, build together, evolve together as one unit. That's not the case with the Certified Scrum Master. It's very different depending on or the certified product owner courses. But for the Advanced CSM, Agile for All only has one course that all the different trainers that teach this course work together off the same material. So how we came about it was really centered on facilitation. we use the Scrum events, but honestly, we have an element of what does it take to truly facilitate? And so honestly, there's an element, we've had a few people that are like, we're not a Scrum Master. We don't care about the certification, but and we're not even really in Scrum, but I really want to learn facilitation. So they came through the class, and honestly, I didn't know fully if it would work or not. And it did. They had to make sure that they understood the Scrum Foundation elements, because we do use the events throughout the class. But we really focus on facilitation as a skill for leaders in whether you're in the Scrum Master role, you're a product owner, you're a functional manager, you're not part of the Scrum teams, the development teams themselves, the Scrum team as a whole, but you want to increase your facilitation skills. So we created all of that. We came together, and we've now run it several times. We've updated all that. There's blog posts on all those things, so I don't want to dive into too much of that stuff. What I want to highlight and what we wanted to talk about here a little bit more was what we found in doing this. A little bit of self-acknowledge, celebration, I guess, is there are a ton of misunderstandings when it comes to facilitation, just a ton. And the problem is we set leaders up. Not intentionally, not maliciously, but we set leaders up, especially in the Agile community. We were like, okay, you're now a Scrum Master, go. Here's the essence of Scrum. Here you take a certified Scrum Master class and you learn the basics of Scrum, you learn a little bit about your role. But honestly, facilitation for a lot of people meant who has the marker, or who's the one with the most positional power in the room. And that's not what facilitation is. And if our goal in Agile is to create high-performing teams that discover value, that can deliver this quality, innovative value in a complex world where we don't know exactly what we're building, we have to actually work together. That means we have to have the wisdom of the crowd. In order to get the wisdom of the crowd, in order to get that collaboration going in your team, it takes leaders facilitating, because they have to be neutral. They have to actually make sure that all voices are being heard, that they're engaging, that they're collaborating together. And that doesn't mean running into a meeting and going, oh, what meeting is this? Okay, well, who's got issues? And then being shocked when the loudest voice wins, or that certain people are not engaging, or there's side conversations after the meetings. So we found, just in teaching what facilitation truly meant, and not only just that it's neutral, it's about engaging all the voices, but that you have to actually design your meetings, that you have to plan for them, that you have to think about how do you incorporate the quieter voices, how do you pull in and the loud voices such as myself, right, in a constructive way that really leverages everybody's strengths. And so we really take our attendees through kind of what it means to truly facilitate. How do you plan for the session? How do you design it? How do you think about what, and assess what needs to happen in it? And then in the moment, how are you facilitating yourself, the team, towards that goal of what they're trying to do to collaborate and become a self-organizing team together? And we found that people were just absolutely shocked by like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. You mean an agenda wasn't enough? And I'm like, well, is it working for you? Because it's not working for most people. And people hate meetings, right? Like, it's not a good thing. And yet that's where a lot of work can and should get done, is in a meeting in a lot of ways. So we found that people were not planning. Were not thinking about their design. They were not thinking about what kinds of exercises should they be incorporating so that brainstorming can really happen, creativity can really happen. Also, where they can kind of come to a decision. Too many times we have people go into meetings and they're like, okay, all these ideas, and then, okay, we've got 5 minutes, let's make a decision, go. And oftentimes 5 minutes might be generous, really. The reality is often we're like, we're out of time, who's making the decision? And you run out of the room, or you try and schedule another meeting. It's so frustrating and so challenging. And so we're not thinking about the exercises that really allow all voices to engage and be heard, but we're also not thinking about the flow of what has to happen in order for people to feel a sense of ownership in that discussion. Not people don't always have to have 100% like that was my decision or that was my idea, but if they feel included in it and they feel this sense of ownership, they're okay, right? Like it's when they feel railroaded, it's when they feel like they were not heard, that people are frustrated with the decision and will want to try and veto or sabotage it intentionally or unintentionally at times. And so there's kind of an arc to how you do that and how you go into that. We use a lot of Sam Kainer's participatory decision making from that book from him. I think someone will put it in the comments for people. And we use that as one of the models to just kind of think about what that flow is for people in a meeting. And it might mean you can't get through the whole flow of the meeting in that one. If you got a really large creative challenge that you have to have, trying to make a decision in that same meeting when you want the energy going to creativity and blue box and what is possible might be too much. And so we really talk through those different dynamics and tips as to what you have to be considering, what you don't, when you're trying to make a meeting really successful as a facilitator, when you want the team to be owning their decision, the result, their progress as they're going forward. We also find that people just don't have access to tools. There's so many times that as a trainer, as a coach, we create content for people and we're like, everybody already knows that. Like I just even had a moment of it as I'm doing this, like everybody knows about the participatory decision-making book. And I'm like, but that's not true. Like, yes, a lot of people do know, but a lot more people don't. And so there's so many times that we think, okay, we can't use that tool, it's too common, or everybody already knows this information. And so we do challenge ourselves when we're creating this material to use tools that are not super common, that not everybody's familiar with. Like, for example, we used a lot of, we have this model that we put down as for listening blockers. So everybody says that they're a good listener, but oftentimes when we're listening, we actually have different intents on our side as to what we're trying to really listen. And we put this big matrix down and we go through about 12 different types of blockers to truly listening to other people. And it's amazing to me every time we go through this exercise, right? Because we then ask people to stand in which blocker that they have a tendency to go to, and whether it's being right or wait. But we ask them to go to different ones. And it's amazing the laughter that actually comes out during that, because they're like, oh yeah, I totally do this, right? But we don't talk about those things. So even when it's something that might be obvious, there's a level that we want to go deeper in terms of really reflecting on the impact that can have in a team, on the impact that can have as a leader in terms of creating the kinds of environments that we want. And so we make sure that we don't have any kind of tools or exercises that we include in other courses, but we try to really create exercises and tools for people that they could use immediately. We had one guy that actually had a lunch status meeting that he was doing, and we had spent a lot of time talking about status meetings and what that was going to mean. And he had brought several people in his group. So half the team was in the class with him virtually, and then half the team was back at the office. And they had this meeting, and I was not eavesdropping or anything, but as he was having it, I actually watched him incorporate some of the tools right away in the meeting. And I couldn't help it. Anybody who knows me, I have a tendency to do this. When I see somebody doing something that is just awesome, you can almost always find me somewhere just like mama grinning, and smiling and just being super happy and proud, right? And but I don't say anything because I'm not even supposed to, I'm in the room, but they know that I'm in the room, but whatever. And and he gets off the call, and the whole, to watch the four of them that were in the room, watch them go, oh my gosh, so-and-so talked and he's never talked before. They were commenting about how much more effective it felt, and that it actually lasted half the length of time than it normally did. And yet they felt that it was more productive, and different topics that normally you have to wait till afterwards. And I was like, this was one meeting, right? And his team went back out to go have lunch, and he stayed and he looked at me and he was just like, okay, like I have work to do as a leader in terms of the impact that I can have on our teams by just how I'm showing up, how I'm creating a space, how I'm facilitating the team working together. So it's been a really wonderful experience. We just had one. Jake Calabrese just did a class this week downtown in Denver. And I chatted briefly with them last night. And it's just been a really wonderful experience watching people gain tools that they can use immediately to helping whether it be their daily Scrum, their retrospective, whether it's just a team meeting or a building event that they're working together on, that they are immediately able to apply these tools and see some impact and results. And I can't ask for anything more than that. Like that's the goal. Is we don't want to give people theory. We don't want to give people just concepts. We want to give them tools to help them move forward, because this goes back to the essence of, I think we spend too little time helping leaders lead in an agile environment and then being frustrated with leaders when we really haven't helped them understand what it truly means. So that's really cool. So let's pause here for a second. I've been talking for a little bit. Let's now, because I'm only on Facebook, I've got somebody else that's channeling it elsewhere. So again, as usual, oh, hi, Becky. I'll see you soon. I have somebody texting me, so I'm going to pull up my phone and look to make sure that I see if we've got a question from the other channels as well while we wait a minute here. So I'm doing the thing that you're not supposed to do and get on my phone while we're going live, but I do my own thing. I'm rebellious. Okay, we do have one. My favorite facilitation technique and tip. Let me see. Okay, I got one. This is, I'm laughing because I'm thinking of the later part of the story. So let me tell you the tip. The tip is, so let's say you're running the meeting or you're running some sort of event or whatever, and you've got two people side chatting. You got two people just talking on the side. It can be frustrating, especially when you're trying to get the content. You get pulled over into that conversation. You're distracted, but you're trying to keep going with it. And it can be really awkward if you're like, are you done with that conversation? I don't like being that, I know it's shocking, but I don't like being that confrontational when I'm up facilitating if I don't need to be. So a technique I learned a really long time ago was to just continue chatting, continue talking, continue making your point, but slowly walk in that direction. Don't even look at them. Don't make a point. I don't even stop directly behind them and throw my arms together or anything. But if you just move in that vicinity, what will ultimately happen is they will actually their awareness will peep up. More times than not, they're not trying to be rude. They're not trying, maybe they even are thinking about something related to what you're talking about, and it stirred a conversation immediately for them. And so just moving in that area will actually cause them to notice a difference, and often 99% of the time stop talking and engage right back in the room. Now, if it keeps happening, you'll have to deal with it or address it privately during a break or whatnot. But for the most part, that helps me. Now, if you stand just behind a podium, if you're speaking or training, or you're sitting when you're facilitating, that technique doesn't work as well. Like, you can't stand up, walk over by them. It's super obvious. But if you're already standing, you can just move in that general vicinity and it totally works. I taught this to a number of team members, and then somebody else, one of them was running a meeting, months later, maybe, I don't know the distance of time between when I taught it and when this event happened. And his name was Blake, and Blake was facilitating the meeting, and I was being the disruptive side talker. And as I'm side talking, he did the technique beautifully. Like, he just slowly walked over. I immediately went, oh, I should, and I like looked up like to stop talking, right? And then the realization that I got schooled by my own technique, by teaching it to somebody else, and then was schooled by it, was, I just started laughing, could not stop. I was like, well done, well done. Like, it was just perfect in every form or fashion. So it's one of my favorite techniques of just being able to realize as a facilitator how much you can control the space and create the kind of environment where the best collaboration can happen and the best engagement can happen. So that's probably the one that comes to my mind, but maybe it comes to my mind so much because Blake wonderfully used it back on me. And I got to feel again how effective it was personally. So you should try it and see for yourself with it. Let's see, we got any more questions? I got somebody texted me. Where are we located? Well, that actually takes us into going forward. So we are still test marketing kind of where we're going to hold these as public classes. We have a number of locations. Our primary locations are in Denver because we live here, and so it's lovely for us. But we are testing out this year a couple new locations, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. There's also a conference that we're aligning it with out there, so we'll be out there. I'm going to allow somebody else to put the exact dates in the comments and things like that, because that would be lovely, because if I say the dates, or then I got to search for it and it just won't be good for me. So we got Cedar Rapids, but we're also trying out Orlando this year as well, right before Agile 2020, because I like to spend as much time as possible down there that week and seeing everybody. We have Denver, we have Atlanta, we have also Ann Arbor. We're returning to Ann Arbor again. Henry Dittmer and myself are returning to Ann Arbor. I like going back to Michigan because it's my hometown, so I get to see everybody when I do that as well. So it's, you know, little selfish on my part, but one of the perks. So that is available on Agile for All site with kind of the list of courses. Again, it's the same course, just different instructors. So if you have a preference of, I understand some people with like different instructors and different stories and different styles, but it is the same course, so you can take it anywhere with any of the people that are out there. And we are doing them throughout the year. We have stuff that's set for the rest of the year. We're also doing, I forgot, Jake added one for San Diego as well. So he'll be out there in that area, which is, I mean, if you've never been to San Diego, it might be my favorite kind of like conference. The weather is amazing, beautiful. It's just incredible. It's one of my favorite places to go. So we'll be out there for a lot of those. I don't know how many additional public markets we're going to test out for this year. I think the public schedule for the most part is set. There might be one that's coming to Tucson, Phoenix area, depending on Steve Spearman and Henry Dittmer looking at that. But if there is a location you're interested, let us know. We'll try and see what we can do in terms of schedule. Well, but we do have things scheduled out through the rest of look at that. Rest of this year in terms of public classes. And again, this is, I kind of basically sum it up as, if you want to level up your facilitation skills, this is it. For those that are like, but I really need the advanced Scrum part, it is that as well, because what we're talking about is often the challenges you're having with the retro, with the daily Scrum, with the review, tie very closely. Number one issues are often tied to how are we facilitating, what are we doing, how are we getting that team to self-organizing, high-performing team, and oftentimes how that leader showing up has a huge impact into it. And we will talk through different specific challenges that you have related to them and go through those areas as well. So don't think that we don't do anything related to Scrum. By any means we do. It's just we really leverage the skills necessary to deal with the challenges that you're facing. So I think I've covered the kind of the big things that we're learning. We're going to continue to evolve this class. So as you have challenges, as you have topics related to facilitation or advanced Scrum, let us know. We're always looking for making sure that the course is meeting the needs of helping people out there have success. So with that, thanks for joining in, and we'll see you soon. I don't know how that